am here for the most wonderful conference here to network, tell people about who I love for my products, and talk about Imagine. I became interested in photography to be very funny and I didn't want to pay somebody else to take pictures of my kids because I wanted to learn it myself. And then during due time, I realized how much I love working with other people and then figure out my photography style. So it's like, okay, I'm able to capture the emotions, but it's also helps me therapeutically being able to help other people see themselves. So I use photography as a therapeutic modality for me and somebody else. My background in therapeutic is occupational therapist. I've been an OT for now 18 years, working in pediatrics, specialized in sensory integration, especially with kiddos with Down syndrome, autism. Um, so that's what I do as my full-time job. What really driven me the most was because I have autism myself, and I want them to feel the way I feel, happy in front of a camera. And I noticed a discrepancy in photography that people were scared to, talk about these things or photograph these things, no matter if it's visible or invisible, and how to work those lines. I want to teach other photographers how to do that. So that's really caused my interest, me being autistic myself, seeing it behind the scenes and also seeing it as a photographer. Well, the first thing I always do, I build rapport with my clients and talk about what things they want to talk about and what they want to do in their session. And then I come with a creative board like that, and then we'll go back with the ideas for locations and what they want to capture. So that's how I start my creative process. So I see those things after building a rapport with the person that I can better understand who they really are. Well, what I usually do is I ask about the health history of like what you're going on, what are your tics, what will set you off, because that's important. That's what the report process starts. When you start with the clients, you start going through that report, asking them what things they want to highlight, what things they can't do. Also, I do a lot of research. If I don't understand their disability, I go do research because I see a lot of different diagnoses at work, and does not mean I'm an expert, but I want to make sure I'm being appropriate with them as well. Well, it's kind of funny because I just got three testimonials from a blind couple recently, and the main thing was with them was I made them feel comfortable. I made them laugh, and after making them laugh and feeling comfortable, the guy never smiled before in his life, and he has no eyeballs. So he was able to say, I feel more comfortable with you. And I had bad experience with photographers before, just because I was laid back. I asked questions. I got to know them during this session. And they actually made me cry at the end of the session because their love story was so strong, which I was very shocked about. But, just being funny, being myself, and let them know. And then I know how to ask the counter questions with them in order to engage with them. So when they say something, I find something in that conversation piece and they ask questions so they be a little bit more comfortable with me. I think it's actually a combination of both. Especially with my parents, they taught me how to be an empathetic hearer and be an active listener. And I felt like my upbringing helped me a lot as being a photographer as well as an occupational therapist. Because the reason why I became an occupational therapist was because of my father. Because he told me that he sees that in me versus me being a marketing specialist. I don't feel I can do that now, but I feel like that's what was part of like my upbringing and my profession. After finding out my diagnosis later in life, it helps me realize better of like I need to teach and make people it's okay to unmask and be okay to be yourself. I had to learn that the hard way when I kept masking myself for so long, and now I feel like I can be able to be open about it and not be crucified for it. I do have occasion people who do like, oh, do you need help? You really have autism? They have those ableism comments. I say, well, the spectrum is a spectrum. Luckily, I was on the lower end, but I still have my quirk. So I feel like me being able to unmask for everybody else can also tell them by themselves as well as it's pretty awesome and hoping to help other people. So the challenges I actually have is like I get really tired from being social so much. Um, it's really hard always being social and always being talkative. So that's like one of my biggest challenges. Another challenge is like when I'm in different environments, when things are too loud for me and it's too much, I get very overwhelmed, which gives me a lot of anxiety. So as a person with autism, that's one of the things I get really nervous about, just the socialization and the overwhelming of my environment. I decompress a lot and I go high, and also I have a Nintendo Switch I play a lot when I get stressed out. So if I don't have a fidget toy, I keep that in my book bag so I can have something to fidget with. I'm doing something functional, but if people don't know I'm decompressing versus like what's going on with me. So Smash Brothers and Mario Kart and Mortal Kombat when I feel like being destructive. Yeah. People need to learn the difference between diversity and inclusion. And diversity and inclusion mean two things. And the one thing I want people to understand that when you're including, it means you're making that person feel like they're comfortable. To make them feel comfortable with their environment, what they're doing, that's functional. Especially like we do everything things like us. Don't say we're inspiration. That's one thing I get tired of hearing from other people. Like, oh, you're an inspiration. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a human being like you are, doing normal things. So it's getting better in this world right now. But I feel like they need to look at it as them being normal, not something that's an inspirational story. Wow, there's a couple. I'll talk about the one that was recent. The couple were both blind. and they've been married for more over to 56 years. They haven't been apart in 41 years until he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He has a good personality about it. It is a very bad cancer, and he called it the waffle cancer because he's 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 scattered, not covered. That's what he said for his cancer. But however, they left a depression in my heart because seeing their love for each other, they met at the Alabama School of Deaf and the Blind, and they fell in love from there. And just hearing his love story and hear what they love to do, and left a lasting impact. I check on him every day to make sure he's okay. His daughter makes sure that I'm okay too. What impacted me the most because he's blind, and he remembered me from high school. I went to school with his daughter, and he was like, "That's Tosha, that's Will's sister." So to have that memory after me being in high school, like, I don't know, 25 years ago, and left the impression that how he was always happy and not worried about his disability. They inspired me when I started hearing stories about, oh, I work with this photographer, they did this, or hearing their stories. So my clients inspired me, and also, this is going to sound very weird, but my dad's death inspired me too because he worked with veterans and advocated for them. Um, so that inspires me to do what I do for the disability community because he was a veteran, helped his community. This is my way to help my community.